This is Gardening in America, and I'm Ed Hume. Today we're in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in a great private garden, and I'm with the owner, Lynn Peters. Lynn, the garden behind us is the original garden, isn't it?
It's about 22 years old.
And you've used a lot of the perennials in this garden. Are those typical of this region?
I would say so, and a lot of them I just remember from my childhood, from my grandparents' gardens, and we kind of like to put that kind of memory into things. So that's
I'm
basically where it came from.
fascinated at what you and the family have done here, because when we go across the street, you have a whole new garden. And how long has it been established?
That garden is probably about 2 years old.
Oh,
so
my.
it's kind of a child of this garden, I would say.
Is that
So
right?
it's-
Yeah. And is what's so nice about it. You have so many features throughout the garden, but I want to first talk to you about, I noticed that you're constructing a greenhouse, and the style of it is, to me, it's unique.
Well, my husband's a contractor, and he had it in his head, and he would tell me at night what it was going to look like, and he's going to have a berm of earth on the outside, and I just kind of would nod, and so I had no sense of what it was like, but he did from the beginning, and yeah, it turned out very nicely.
Yes,
We were
yeah,
very
the
happy
glass
with it.
is not in it yet when we're here, so our viewers understand that. But is what we like to do is to give the viewers different ideas, and boy, that's a great idea. Then just across from it, you have a structure and a high fence with a vegetable garden.
Yeah, that's to keep the deer out. The deer like the vegetables probably more than we do, so we've kind of tried to enclose that a little bit, and I like the design of it too. It kind of matches and offsets the greenhouse, so it's a nice addition too. I like it.
Now, on the other side of that new development area across the street, you have another with a beautiful entry area, another enclosed area.
That's for the rose garden, and we've placed our azaleas and some honeysuckle and anything again that the deer really go after. We've tried to kind of protect that in that area, and it makes it kind of like a room. You know, that's kind of how I feel about that garden. It's kind of has its little areas,
Oh,
almost
yeah.
like a house.
Now,
So-
we're talking mainly today, or we're supposed to be talking mainly about plants, but in this garden you also have some great sculptures. Who does that?
Well, we have a friend who does some ironwork, so we've gotten some things from her. And then when we take trips and whatnot, we kind of look around for things. And there's a local store here that I love, so they do a good job with things. And it's kind of sometimes Mike says one more Goo-Gah, and we're gonna top heavy, but it works. So
Now,
fun.
how many members of the family are involved in this?
my husband and I do probably the majority of it, and then our son Jake does
just 2 days ago. And it's so prolific flowering that more and more of them are dropping all the time. But that's great. It's really enjoyable. Now, here's a red rose. You'll notice it's fairly small, and there are quite a few flowers to the stem. That indicates then that it's either a floribunda or a grandiflora rose, more than one flower per stem. This one here is another. This is my favorite. This is Double Delight. And you'll notice that there are several flowers per stem. For example, there are 3 on that one there. But there are a few things you need quickly to know. I just pulled these from around the plant. These are weeds, and weeds are host to insects, and they also rob valuable nutrients from the rose bush, so get them away right away. Roses are also, some varieties at least, susceptible to mildew. And this is not a rose, but there is mildew. There's the actual color of the leaf. So you can see right away the difference. You need to use a fungicide to control this problem. Here's another one that has become more and more a problem all the time, and that's black spot on roses. You can see the little black spots on the leaves there. That's a disease, and that needs to be controlled by a fungicide as well. Now, another important thing, here's a leaf that's been all eaten up, in fact, a couple of them, by a green caterpillar, very small. So you'd need an insecticide to control that. And I noticed on the new growth here, aphid as well. So you'd need an insecticide to control it. Now, if we're pruning roses, let me just cut one back here so I can show you. You always prune above, I made this cut below, but you always prune just above a 5-leaflet stem. And your roses will need feeding about once a month throughout the growing season. Take good care of them, they'll flower like crazy for you. As you can see, we've got a lot of color here, but since we've added the patio, there's a lot of area between here and the house where there's not much in bloom at all. So it's kind of important to add some color, and that's exactly what we're doing here with these containers. And I've already planted up a few. What we're going to do is to actually add wisteria or vines this fall when it's the proper planting time. But let me show you how to do this. I'm using a premium topsoil here, the bagged material, so I don't need to amend the soil at all. And we'll just kind of spread it out here. You can see the top quality material. And let's kind of start with something right in the middle. This is one of the miniature varieties of the little pansy geranium, or what we sometimes call Martha Washington geranium. And you can see it's a very prolific flowering variety. Here in the corner, to add a little bit of gray against all the color of the stones below and also of the container, is the silver brocade Dusty Miller. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And it'll hang down over the side, kind of over the edge of the container here, very nicely. And then in the other corner here, I'm going to use the purple petunia because it has a really neat fragrance to it. And that'll make a nice addition and a nice contrast with the other foliages and the color of the flowers as well. And you've noticed that undoubtedly that I have moistened all of these containers so that the dirt clings to the roots, and there's no chance then of the plants being bare root. This is the little wax begonia. This is a really neat plant because it flowers all summer long and will take almost any exposure in the garden. And it will provide a nice foliage contrast too. And then as well, I'll use, look at that beautiful New Guinea, impatiens. And we'll bare root that a little, not bare root it, but massage the roots a little and put it right here in the corner. And then I'm going to put another trailing plant here on the back side, and this is the white flowering Bacopa. It's a very colorful plant as well. And we'll just use it back here on this back side. And you can see with just a little bit of planting what we've been able to do here. Now for the rest of the summer, we've provided a lot of color. We've provided some plants that'll trail down over the edge of the container. We've provided fragrance, And we also have used different foliage textures. So the combination of all of these will make for an interesting planting. And then when fall comes and the correct planting time comes, that's when we'll put the wisteria plants in here to cover this post and the rest of the deck area. But in the meantime, for summer color, here's a great combination. If you want to increase the number of plants in your garden, one of the great ways of doing it is to take summer cuttings. And what you want to do is to be sure to get mature wood. But let me show you first about a few of the cuttings that we've taken earlier. This is a Hebe, or commonly called a Veronica, a variegated leaf variety. And you can see several of them just doing beautifully. They've rooted great. And here are some of the fuchsias that we've rooted as well. And they're doing really well, except maybe for that weed that's in there too. So we'll get it out. Now, let's talk about selecting wood that we're going to use for cuttings. And this is a rhododendron. First thing that'll do, you'll notice it's mature wood too. This is not new fresh wood, although it's this season's growth. So that's important. Is what we don't want is wispy growth that's going to wilt the minute that we put it into root tone. So I'll gather these leaves on the top together and then simply prune them off about halfway, like so. And the reason why we do that is if you leave the full leaf, the leaf loses too much moisture through the cutting, and consequently, this stalk can't take up enough moisture from down below. So we remove that. It's a process called transpiration. Now also we'll shorten the cutting, and then I'll dip it into some rooting hormone, which is a white powder. You can use the liquids too. And then right into, in this case, I'm using a soil mix, a good sterilized soil mix. Now let me take this cutting of a camellia and just quickly use a different planting medium. Again, I'm going to remove about half of the leaves of this camellia, like so. And I'm going to shorten the cutting a little bit again. Dip it into the rooting hormone, and you notice I knock off any excess rooting hormone, and this time I'm going to set it in vermiculite, which is a great medium for starting plants. Now here's a cutting, for example, from an evergreen azalea, and it's much easier. All we do is strip off the bottom leaves, shorten the cutting to about 3 to 4 inches, and dip it in the rooting hormone again, and then directly into the starting medium. And as what I'm showing you here also is that you can do quite a few cuttings in one pot. It's not a problem at all. In the juniper, the case of the juniper, again, we strip off the bottom leaves or pull them off, being a little bit more difficult than usual. And I'll shorten the cutting again just a little bit, dip it into a rooting hormone, knock off the excess powder. I'm going to take off just a little bit of that bottom growth. And I'm using the vermiculite again this time. But keep in mind, you can do a lot of other plants in the garden as well. And now's a good time to make those summer cuttings. Today we have 2 plants of the week, the beautiful summer flowering lantanas and the summer flowering dahlias. Let's start with the lantanas. Look here, this is a white flowering variety, and this is a name variety called Simon. Isn't it beautiful? It's very compact, an excellent one for containers or for bedding purposes. And then right next to it, the multicolors of this one, hence the name Rainbow. Really a pretty variety, again a dwarf variety, so it's excellent to use in containers of any kind. Now, here's a more spreading variety. This is a variety called Castle Ottenberry, and it's a basket type. Isn't that pretty? Really a very, very large flowering variety. And back here, another variety that's excellent for containers because this is more compact. Could also be used in baskets as well. But this is a variety called Cherry, and it's a compact, but yet it's spreading. And then here's another very colorful variety. This is called Desert Sunset. and you can see the combinations of colors. Lantanas like full, hot, bright sun, and so do our next plant of the week, the beautiful dahlias. Notice the little compact one, or sometimes called mini there. Comes in several different colors. Very, very pretty and very prolific flowering. We have it kind of in the off season. And then the next group here is also a dwarf compact variety. They grow somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 to 18 inches in height. And these are called Dahlinovas. They're really very, very attractive and flower all summer long. And right next to them are these beautiful ones, and they are the Harlicum series, which come from seeds. All of these lantanas and dahlias are available at your local nursery or garden center. We're on Bainbridge Island in the state of Washington, and I'm with George Little of Little and Lewis. And this is a magnificent place. Where is Bainbridge Island?
We are 6 miles about west of Seattle over Puget Sound.
Yeah, it's gorgeous over here.
Beautiful ferry ride.
You know, is what's so neat about your place here is you not only have gorgeous sculptures that you and your partner have created, but also you got a beautiful garden here.
Yeah, well, we're sort of gardeners from the bone out.
Is that right? How large is this area? It's small, but...
Oh, this is a tiny garden. We're only on a third of an acre.
Is that right?
Yeah, but we created rooms and have a lot of very large leaved plants, so it feels bigger than it really is.
Yeah. First of all, I know our viewers are going to wonder what's behind us here.
This is a concrete gunnera leaf, one of our sort of signature sculptures. Yep. This has been here for about a week now, I think.
Is that right?
It's more than 5 feet across.
You know, you've added a lot of things to the garden since we were here last, and one thing that caught my eye immediately are the 5 bird baths.
The lotus leaf bird baths.
They're gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then
that's a new item.
Yeah, totally new. And then over here on the other side, you have one by itself, but water is...
Yeah, they can be plumbed for fountains too. The birds just love that.
And you know, another thing that everybody on our staff has really enjoyed are your hangings on the fences that have mirrors behind them.
Oh, the garden mirrors, yeah. Thanks, yeah, I like those too. I love the way they look like a window from a distance, but they bring light into a dark area of the garden.
They do, really.
Yeah.
And of course, another signature of yours, or at least I think it's a signature, is the columns.
Oh yes, the dripping columns. I don't know if you can see them in this shot, but they're right there behind me. On hot days especially, they're nice. And you know, the hummingbirds have been coming and taking showers under the water.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's, you know, throughout the whole garden, there's all kinds of features. You're using water a lot, don't you?
Well, yeah, we're kind of nuts for water. Most of our sculptures are oriented toward water use in some way. And all of it, of course, is garden sculpture.
The leaves are also, you've got all different sizes and all different shapes.
Yeah.
Are those true replicas?
They are. We use an actual leaf for the armature for the concrete. So they're one of a kind, each one.
Now tell me, are you open to the public?
We're open by appointment.
Okay.
3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay. And you're a retail establishment?
Yes.
Thanks very much. What a great place to visit. Little and Lewis on Bainbridge Island. That's all the time we have today. Hope you can join me at the same time next time for Gardening in America. And remember, our relationship with the planet today is tomorrow's future. Have a great week.